This is Dateline News and Conversation. Well, the topic tonight is Donald Trump. Who, what, why, what's it all about? We're going to talk about the conflict in Ukraine. Is there an end to this? My guest tonight, good friend for a long time, Dean Henderson. Dean, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back, Regis. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. All right, so you're sitting up there in the Black Hills. Uh, I'm sitting over here in Yalta, and on Saturday, something incredible happens. Uh, an attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I don't know if you saw it. You must have read about it. You must have seen some of the clips. What are your thoughts now, a few days later?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just the fact that he turned his head right then, otherwise I think it goes in his temple, but he turned his head so it goes through his ear, and I mean, it's just, of course, obviously, there's some interesting things that occurred, like the fact that the guy was able to get on this roof at all, was able to even know that it was not secured. And then this morning we hear there's snipers inside the building that he was on, but there didn't appear to be any windows even in that building, and it's at ground level. And so why are they in the building? Then they're blaming the Pennsylvania cops. Are saying the Secret Service is saying that was their territory, and vice versa. So there's that going on. I mean, so I just think, honestly, I mean, the kid, the interesting thing about the kid is there's nothing on him. He doesn't have a social media account hardly at all, or hardly any trace of him, which is interesting, because that doesn't happen every day. And he was in some BlackRock commercial. I even saw an RT was reporting he was in some BlackRock commercial that they shot at Butler School, and he was just in the background with a bunch of other kids. And so there's a lot of weird things about it, and we don't know, what was going on. We don't. I mean, obviously, Trump is talking about, ending the war in Ukraine. That's a lot of money for arms companies. So there's people that would want to stop him for sure. So all that being said, I think the reason it happened was just, the tone of American politics, and honestly, and it's just bad. And the Democrats seem to think Trump's the only asshole in the room, but he's made them into assholes. I mean, they're so scared of him that they've become him. And they were talking about putting a target on him and stuff like this. And the kid's probably just been bullied, and he doesn't like this bully Trump guy. And maybe his dad, talks Trump down every day like a lot of people do, and he just snapped. Or maybe he's MK Ultra by Raytheon. I mean, we don't know, but I'm just saying, like, that has to be discussed. And I don't know. Robert Kennedy was the only adult in the room. He not only he called Trump right away, and then he also, he said good job on, getting up and saying fight and shaking your fists. And yeah, I agree. So I mean, because got no place for that. I don't like Trump. I don't like Biden. I don't like any of them. I'm more likely to vote for Kennedy, if I vote at all. And but still, you got to just tone it down. And so no matter if there was even another conspiracy behind it, and there very well be. We may find out. Well, we won't find out, but except for a few people maybe try to research it. But still, it just comes down to, yeah, you can't talk about your political opponents in this way on either side. The conservatives. It's all started with Rush Limbaugh. Okay, my opinion. It all started with Rush Limbaugh. I was living in Missouri. Rush is from Cape Girardeau. He didn't even finish the eighth grade. He's an ignoramus. So they give him a job as a national syndicated talk show host on mostly Sinclair stations, which is one of the bloodline families, the Sinclair family or St. Clair family. And Rush just he started, use the word libtard, right away, like just insinuating that liberals were stupid. So that's really where it started. It was Rush that started it, that started the whole shit show. And but it's just, now both sides do it. Now they're like, well, if they're going to do it, we'll do it. And it's just like this sinking into the mud, the sinking into the Watiko mindset, where you always have to dominate your opponent and, do a preemptive strike because you never know, they might, take a shot at you, and you just lose your humanity. So and I have to say that's happened to this whole country. It's a cultural rot of America where this is happening all over the country now, and there is no civility, and there's not even conversations really. It's just shouting back and forth on social media, and people don't even talk face to face anymore hardly. So it's a reflection of that too. It's all a reflection in the pond, and this is why it's the end of the empire. I mean, it's the end of this empire anyway. I'm sure the empire will survive. It'll just relocate like it's done for the last 8,500 years. And but America, we got problems, and then you watch that debate even before that, and you're just watching that debate going, wow, this one guy can't even remember his last sentence, and the other guy is calling the other guy a Palestinian. You're acting like a Palestinian, he told Biden. Trump did, which to me was the most disturbing thing about the whole debate, was when Trump said that. It's like, what does that mean? Does that mean Palestinians are less than Israelis, or less than humans, or are they just animals or savages, or what does that mean, Mr. Trump? So it's just that just made me sad to watch that. It just made me sad. And that, again, that's a reflection of the culture. That's we've been dumbed down enough to allow two choices to be those two choices. And the only guy that's rational, has anything rational to say, well, so does Cornel West, so does Jill Stein, but I mean, the one that has a chance, Bobby Kennedy, is blacklisted by the media for a month, and then they'll come out on day 30 and they'll do a story about how he was at a dog roast or something, and then another 30 days in the freezer, and then they'll come out about some affair that he had, and another 30 days, and they'll come out and say, he said the Jews get whatever. It's just dirt campaign to eliminate him, and it's worked apparently because his poll numbers are going down. So it's all pretty depressing, Regis, honestly, sitting here. I mean, in America, I mean, the political landscape, it's, obviously Trump's going to win now. That's another wild card. Is this, I mean, it could have been done by Trump people to make sure he wins, because I know the crowd wants Trump this time. They don't want Biden this time. They want Trump. And I said last time they wanted Biden, and I was right. And I'm saying this time they want Trump, and I've been saying that, and I'm right again.
Now let me jump in here, because cui bono. You and I have talked many times about the crown, the royal bloodlines. Explain a little bit what you mean by what you just said. The crown wanted Biden the last time, but now they want Trump. Who is the crown, and why have they switched?
Well, the crown is the bloodline that rules the world through its monarchies, various monarchies in Europe and across the globe. And it's based in the City of London, the Crown Corporations, the City of London Corporation being the biggest of those. And they decide, I mean, it was British intelligence that convinced Zelensky to not make peace with Russia and instead provoke them back in 2019. It was British intelligence that created the shit at Wuhan through the Wellcome Trust and Jeremy Farrar. It was British intelligence that Biden's dad, or not dad, but great-great-grandfather worked for, the East India Company. And in other words, uncles did too. Trump's got the papers for Tesla. Apparently they killed Tesla because he was on the road to free energy, and the JP Morgan Chase didn't like that because they backed Edison. So they shut him down, stole his papers, and apparently Trump's uncle's got the papers. So they're both in their pocket. And Trump also went up belly up with his Taj Mahal casino in Atlantic City, and who bailed him out? Rothschild Bank. Wilbur Ross was the bond trader that worked with him. who later became his commerce secretary. And it was Rothschild Inc. Okay, so that's who got the Atlantic City beachfront from Trump, and to run their drugs and launder their money and traffic human beings and all the dirty things that happen in a casino town. That they are always behind, the Rothschilds and the families, the bloodlines. The bloodlines are organized crime. They run everything. They run the organized crime, the unorganized crime. They run the political scene. They run the military. I mean, they own everything. And Tavistock Institute is the PSYOP agency that, yeah, they'll somehow produce two of these candidates. And first time they wanted Trump because it was divide and conquer. Cambridge Analytica, it's in a couple of my books, talk about how Cambridge Analytica, worked with Facebook to pretty much put Trump over the top. And Cambridge Analytica is this British Crown corporation controlled by, I believe it's SLC Corporation is their parent. And on the board of SLC it's a defense contractor in Britain. And on the board is like Lord Mountbatten, which is bloodline. And so they got Trump in there. They followed him. It was GCHQ that had him bugged, had him bugged, during the campaign. And he even said that at one point. So then they, instead of fessing up to that, they go the other way and they say, oh, Trump's working with the Russians, and they march out Christopher Steele, who's an MI6 agent, to do the Steele dossier on Trump and try to make this, turn it all around, basically not just deflect attention from the fact that the Crown was watching Trump, but also to say, oh no, he was actually working with the Russians. It wasn't us that was doing that. So there's this history. And then Biden, I think they just wanted him last time because he's old and he could, he's a career politician. Again, his family goes back to East India Company. He's always been one of the most conservative Democrats in the Senate, always. I mean, he was one of the few people that really supported the Iraq War, even in the Gulf War back then. Most Democrats didn't back then. He did vociferously. He passed these draconian crime bills while he was a senator, and he's always been this really right-wing Democrat, corporate Democrat. He's from Delaware, for Christ's sakes. That's where all the corporations, are sort of offshore here in the United States. It's Delaware. It's got these special banking code, and all this. And so I think they wanted Biden, though, because now it's like, well, they've used Trump to derange liberals so much that they're willing to toss Bernie under the bus and go for Biden because they're so scared of Trump, even though Bernie would have kicked his ass in 2016 if they'd have let him instead of putting Hillary up and cheating. And the DNC all the while getting more corrupt, killing Seth Rich. The DNC under Wasserman Schultz just became this little mafia, Rothschild mafia, I guess. And they're getting all the corporate money all of a sudden. So yeah, Biden gets in there. Of course, they did the rig the vote. Of course, they rigged the vote. Smartmatic, Diebold, the same voting machines, who again are owned by the Crown. And Lord Mark Malloch Brown sits on the board of both of those companies. He's one of the point people for the Crown nowadays, probably the number one point man, actually even ahead of Soros at this point, because he's now running the World Economic Forum, and he's running Gates. Let's see, what did he just take over? Brown. Anyway, he's very powerful. Sits on the board of both of those companies. Those companies are controlled by British intelligence, by the Crown. They do rig votes easily. It's the NSA had this technology where they could literally change data midstream, like in between one point and another computer. They could change the data and you'd never know it was changed. Things like that. They have all the technology to do this. It's so easy. So elections have been rigged actually for quite a while. I mean, in this country, ever since we introduced the voting machines. So we don't even have that, really anymore. But anyway, they wanted Biden because he was calm. He was an old man. He was senile. And here they're going to come with with Operation Warp Speed, which Trump started, of course, in the end. But Biden presided over the death of, a lot of people in this country calmly. And then he got us into a conflagration in Ukraine, and his son was intimately involved with Burisma, Hunter, which is owned by Igor Kolomoisky, who is the sponsor of Zelensky, and was, even when he was an actor, he was kind of his patrone. He'd buy him like Range Rovers and stuff. And then he really funded his campaign. And Kolomoisky controls Burisma, and he's also training, involved with funding the Azov Battalion and all these crazy Stefan Bandera fascists in Ukraine. So we got in a war there because of that, and because of the thing on the Maidan in 14 under Obama. Biden was vice president. Biden gets the Ukrainian attorney general fired for his attempts to investigate Burisma and all these things. So they needed that because the COVID thing failed. I mean, they were, it was like a shock thing, and they scared a lot of people, and they took away rights for a while, but then people fought back, and their 5G fourth industrial revolution failed, and their Tesla cars their used ones are worthless now pretty much because people don't want them. And the whole thing fell on its face. And so they went to war again. So Biden got him back into war, and he did it calmly again. Always a Democrat. It can't be that bad. Yeah, right. And then he gets this, and then he goes and just backs Israel in their annihilation and genocide in Palestine. 40,000 dead now, over half women and children. And he just sits there and does absolutely nothing about it. And so now I think they want Trump again, because Trump will further deregulate big business, which is another thing he did, of course, and he'll further cut taxes on the rich, which is another thing he did. And there's been this creeping concentration of power in America, and he just made it worse. And of course, Biden didn't do anything to help it. It made it worse too, really. But now it's just going to get a lot worse, and they probably are going to go door to door grabbing immigrants and just taking them to the border. Who knows what else they'll do going door to door? But I think I think they want Trump now because they're coming out of the closet, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, we're fascists. What are you going to do about it? You're going to jail. You're going to get a bullet in your head. This is how we're going to deal with this." That's kind of what I see coming. Which is why, it's probably time to skedaddle from this country.
So we've talked a lot about this in the past. The Crown, how they basically own everything. They run the world through the banking industry, the military-industrial complex. You mentioned British intelligence involved in all of this stuff. I want to go back to the assassination attempt. And I think you have spelled out what nobody's really talking about: the cui bono, the Crown. I mean, the ridiculous theories about who benefits. Now it's not only Russia, it's Iran, it's possibly North Korea. I mean, there's a hit list a mile long of people who hate Trump and would like to take him out. I do think you've hit the nail on the head, and a lot more people need to hear this. But going back to the assassination attempt, I'm not sure if we're going to find out what really happened. We never do. John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I mean, right on down the line, you never find out. But what was different about this one is I don't know how many thousand people were there, but there wasn't a Zapruder film this time. There were hundreds of people taking video and still pictures with their phones. And these have been all over the internet now. I want to ask you this. Dean, do you think this was dereliction of duty on the Secret Service? Do you think that the fact that that building and that rooftop were not secured? Here's the question. Somebody gave the order not to shoot and then to shoot. Now, trying to tie this to what we're talking about, British intelligence, the Crown, could they have been involved in this? I think they must have been.
It's possible. Like I said before, it's possible. He's trying to shut down the war. The military industrial complex doesn't like that. Crown owns that. Um, on the other hand, I do think the Crown wants him in there this time. And so if they were involved, I mean, maybe the guy was a really good, maybe he was a sharpshooter and he was taught to just miss. I mean, it's possible too. I mean, those guys that are sharpshooters, they can easily put it right where they want it, even with him turning his head. So it's almost like if they did it, it's to give Trump more sympathy to get him elected, just like they've done with putting him on trial. All these trials have done is gotten him more sympathy. So it's just and amazing how in the end all of them are dropped and everything's fine, but they just rile those MAGA people up more. Because really they're the ones now that have taken on this, like the liberals. Yeah, they do it too with the victimhood, but really these MAGA people, I mean, have sort of embraced the victimhood thing now, and they're persecuted. They're like, the persecuted
I
people.
lost you. I lost you. We got disconnected there. I've been having this problem over and over again.
Okay.
You want to repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I'm not sure where we got cut off. But like I say, it's possible British intelligence was involved. But I really think they kind of want Trump as their guy. So, if it was them, then maybe this guy was just sending him a message or just trying to gain him sympathy for Trump. Because I mean, this obviously, this helps him politically enormously. I mean, Biden is finished and everybody knows it, but now Biden's going to stay in the race because of this shooting where he was probably going to get forced out and at least let, some other clown try like Kamala or Newsom, I suppose. But now, because of this shooting, it looks like to me Biden is going to be allowed to stay in the race. So that helps Trump, and he's going to win in a landslide. I mean, so they could have been involved, but we still know. We haven't seen. Has anybody seen the body of the kid?
Nah. Yeah.
So we don't even know if he was the shooter or if he was just a patsy and they threw him in a garbage bin somewhere. And this other guy was there with, special forces that was taking that shot. We were told there were snipers in the building. So it's interesting. If they were in the building, you sure they weren't on the building too? Because when they had known if somebody was on the building, when they have even just heard it through the roof, and yet, yeah, they reported that this morning that there were snipers in that building. They didn't say if they were Secret Service snipers or police snipers or what, but there's a lot of, and the crowd was telling them, obviously, too, yelling, hey, there's a guy up there with the gun, and so, but they claim it's like I say, a jurisdiction thing. So maybe the Secret Service thought the guy on the roof was a police officer from that town. And that's why he didn't shoot right away. Or maybe not. Or maybe that guy was another special forces guy over there and they were triangulating this kid but they missed him. Okay. So whatever the case, it's like whoever did this, it's either sending a message or it's not serious. Because if you want to kill Trump and you're the crown, you just kill him. Okay. I mean, it's easy. They've done it many times. They can do it anytime they want. And they, so they didn't want to kill him, obviously. So what was the point of it, and that's what you got to ask.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, because you mentioned Ukraine earlier. Trump has campaigned, forever really, that he is going to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. He's going to get with Putin and Zelensky, and he's going to end it. Now, the crown can't be too happy with that. The military-industrial complex can't be too happy with that.
No.
How do we reconcile the crown loving Trump because they think he's going to do their bidding, but on the other hand, he wants to take away their sugar daddy over there in Ukraine? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, maybe you don't. Maybe that's what we're seeing here is like a change in their position that, maybe they wanted Trump and now they're realizing, oh, wait a minute. Because but again, they could have killed him and they didn't. So, It sounds like it makes sense because he's supposed to going to end this war. Now JD Vance, who's his vice president, is even more anti-Ukrainian funding. So it's even more likely. But again, why didn't they just kill him? And why would they use some 20-year-old kid who can't seem to shoot too good to do it? So, honestly, I still think, the benefits that they'll gain from Trump in terms of rolling back their taxes and stuff probably outweighs even the military conflict. They could find another one. And he's also very pro-Israel, more so than Biden. And his attitude toward Israel is let him finish the job. That's how he puts it. And so he's just down with Bibi. He just like annihilate Hamas, and which means annihilating all of Gaza because at this point Hamas and Gaza are indistinguishable. Everybody in Gaza hates Israel. Put it that way. Every single person in Gaza fucking hates Israel and should. So they're all Hamas. So what are you going to do? Kill everybody? Well, that seems to be the plan. Yeah. But that's what happens when you colonize a country. But Trump's totally down with that. He's the one that moved the embassy, first time around. And that pissed off the Palestinians. He's the one that put the Israelis up to peace talks with the Saudis and peace talks with the Kuwaitis. And he's, trying to get them to sign peace deals, which almost happened, which was going to happen right before October 7th, which is part of the reason Hamas did that attack when it did it, because it realized that once Israel and Saudi signed a peace deal, it was game over for the Palestinian cause. And so that was a big part of that timing. And it did cause a disruption in that. And there's no deal now. And there's no talk of a deal now. And not only that, but the Saudis are now talking with the Iranian foreign minister instead. And Iran is making a diplomatic move to try to, not just with Saudi, but with Kuwait and Qatar and all the countries to upgrade relations. Actually, they've had good relations with Qatar for quite some time. Iran has. So, there's all that, and Trump fits the bill there. So, his only weakness, in their mind is that he wants to call the war off. But on the other hand, what do they think's really going to happen? I mean, the danger for the bloodline even is that, you can say, well, they want World War III. And in the past they have, because they've been able to control both sides. But this time that's not true. They can't control both sides. And this time I think they realized that World War III, at this point in time, they would lose. Their side would lose. The other side was going to win. So you got to think about that too. Like maybe they're just looking for a way to climb down. And maybe Trump's just that way for them to climb down and not go to World War III and get their ass kicked and get their banks nationalized and have all their families put in jail, and all their castles, turned into daycare centers or museums, or I don't care, something worthwhile, something that doesn't house inbreds would be good.
So we're talking about the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, Gaza, Hamas, PLO, the Houthis. How do you interpret what's going on there? I've had some friends on my show who have been to Gaza, been into Palestine recently, and they claim that Israel is losing badly. Their economy is on the rocks. Their infamous Iron Dome is useless. Hamas just attacked Mount Heron or something, which was a major place where they have reconnaissance they can see all around. What's your take on what's going on there? And is the Crown involved in that?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, the Crown controls Israel. Israel is and has always been, since its inception, a strategic outpost in the Middle East for the bloodline Crown, through which it could control the oil, which is why the Mossad got built up into the best intelligence agency in the world. world, which is why the U.S., which is also a little crown bitch, basically does their bidding for them. So sad. But we send Israel money. God forbid the crown would actually have to send that write a check. So we send them a check and they get money. But it's always been about controlling the oil. And honestly, since Reagan formed the Gulf Cooperation Council in 81, that cemented the Arab side of the deal in the corner of the bloodline, because the Saudis, Kuwaitis, and Bahrainis, and UAE, and all these GCC countries are all bloodline controlled monarchies. So then you had the Arabs and the Israelis in your pocket at that time, right? So, of course, the crown's involved in Israel. Israel is the crown. Israel is a manifestation of the crown. It's a colonial outpost for the bloodline crown in the Middle East, the most important one. And so there's that. But now, as far as I think Israel's not doing well. And it's interesting how after all this crazy bombing from north to south, you get down to Rafah, and then what happens? Well, stuff fires up in Gaza City again, and here comes Hamas, and this is some of their biggest offensives were just recently here, after it's all been bombed out, and everything. And then Hezbollah is lighting it up on the northern border, and yes, the Israelis are killing some of their commanders, but Hezbollah has hit some key, military stuff up there. Something happened in the Golan Heights the other day, so now Syria's, back on edge. Iran has just made a statement, I think today, that if Israel goes into Lebanon, it'll be a hell that will never end, something like that, which indicates that Iran would maybe step up some attacks on its own. The Houthis are totally decimating commercial shipping still in the Red Sea. You don't even hear about it anymore. They've just given up reporting it. It's so one-sided. They're sinking ships left and right. There's still a lot of companies won't send cargo through there at all. And they've got some crazy technology, and so does Hezbollah. They've got some crazy rockets that, like you said, the Iron Dome, it's not going to matter. So no, they're not. Israel's not doing good. Their economy's even worse, and of course they're just becoming a pariah nation to more and more of the world, and so that's not going well. But of course, it's being reported just the opposite, and of course, the human carnage is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable and I don't know. I just don't understand why. And Russia did make some threats when the Golan Heights was hit. Russia also, it's the first time I've heard Russia make sort of a veiled threat to Israel, and they kind of did. And so I don't know. I just love to see somebody step in and just end it, I guess. And that's just going to have to be Russia probably, or, China. But somebody needs to step in and end it. This should not be allowed to happen. There has to be somebody in the world with enough guts and guns just to go end this thing, and just, I don't care how you do it. Just go into Tel Aviv and just take those fuckers out, take them out, and they got to go. And just, I don't know.
It looks to me
to live there anymore. Really, the way they've acted, they don't even deserve any of them. They should just deport them all, get them the fuck out.
It looks to me like Hamas, the PLO, Hezbollah, and the Houthis are doing a pretty good job of it all by themselves. And if Netanyahu continues this assault and he goes into Lebanon, if Iran comes into this, it's game over. Israel is finished completely.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back to the crown, and they control everything in the world. They control the money, they control the media, they control all of the major multinational corporations. What the hell are they trying to do, Dean, when the American economy is in free fall? $35 trillion debt. They can't even pay the interest on it. When you cross the Atlantic and you look across Europe from west to east, their economies are all in shambles.
Yep.
NATO is pounding on its chest, as is the EU. that, we're the big gorilla here and we're going to do this, that. But they're basically paper tigers now. Russia has kicked their ass in Ukraine. I mean, anything they send in there, Russia destroys.
Oh,
Safeguarding as much as they can, not only their own troops, but civilians in Ukraine.
yes,
But
yes.
this this assault that Russia is conducting now on Ukraine is, they call it a meat grinder. What
Mm-hmm.
the heck can the crown be thinking when they see the economies across Europe collapse? Germany's finished. It's over. And I think, I don't know, the crown must love that. I don't know why. And
Yeah,
and
I don't
how
know. I think there might be some to this climb down scenario with Trump because I think they just underestimated Russia. Of course, they always underestimate Russia. They've made a living out of that for centuries. Even you know they underestimated Russia, and they overestimated Ukraine and the ability of just an arms flow to win. I mean, you have to have will to win, and the people that had the will were in the Donbass, and the Russian soldiers who saw those people just getting terrorized. So they gotta climb down. I think because they don't. No, they can't want that. I don't. I mean, I can't imagine where they're gonna go. I mean, if Europe and the West goes down and Bretton Woods crumbles, I mean, where's the bloodline going to go? Some people say they're going to go to China. I used to think maybe that was the case. I don't really think that anymore because I think China right now under Xi is just, it's actually reverted more to its kind of Maoist roots, I think, and they're kind of going after corporate corruption again, and they're kind of there's a big role for the state right now in China, more so than it's been, and the tariffs have influenced that too because um, they've had to adjust to the relations with the U.S., which have sharply deteriorated since the first Trump administration with China. So where are they going to go? So I mean, I just think they're losing. I think when people lose, yeah, then you hear them talking a lot of bluster and maybe you see them trying to assassinate presidential candidates even. They're so desperate. And yeah, I don't know. But I just think they're losing. The bloodline right now is losing. Like it's never lost like this, really. And they thought the information era was to control our brains because we're so stupid and they're so smart. But the information era, we've turned it around and exposed how stupid they are instead and how corrupt and evil they are, and we've offered an alternative, and they're just livid. They're freaking out. That's why they banned us all. Ban us, but it didn't work either because here we are again. And so once so it's just the information era allowed us to defeat the bloodline in this manner, like it's never been defeated before. I don't think, because now it's just information. It's just out there. What are these people? Who are they? What's their deal? And now people just know. So it's a broad knowledge of it. And that's a problem. That's a problem for them. It's going to take a while. It'll always takes a while for things to manifest politically. I mean, obviously, politically, nothing good's going to manifest in the U.S. for a while. But that doesn't mean other places aren't seeing that already. In Africa and Latin America, Bolivia was able to knock back those right wing coup people that the CIA was working with. Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Sudan, all going the way of Russia, Niger. There's a lot of good things happening in the world. Colombia has a left wing president for the first time in its history who's actually fighting for like socialized medicine and against the drug cartels instead of working with them, which every other president did, and they were all a bunch of right wing conservatives and ran the death squad. So that's good news. Mexico just reelected another socialist, and there's a lot of good things in Mexico going on. There's a lot of good things in India. There's a lot of relations developing with BRICS. So there's a lot of good things going on in the world. It's just the West. Yeah, it's kind of like ding dong, wake up, or just fall off a cliff and get left behind. And I think they're having their ding dong moment right now with Joe, just everything that's happening. It's not going well for him. So I'm happy about that. That makes me happy.
Well, I want to thank you for your insight tonight. It's always invaluable. What I would like to do in another show very soon is to discuss this new emerging multipolar world, the BRICS plus, and obviously what's really important in all of this is, does the Crown have their fingers in that? And I think that'll be a really interesting topic. I've thought, wow, this BRICS movement really is hopeful and positive, but then, they seem to be tied into Agenda 2030, still hooked into the WHO, World Trade Organization, the World Bank. These appear to me to be some contradictions. So, Dean, I want to thank you again so much. It's always great to have you. We'll look forward to doing another one talking about the BRICS, your thoughts, and vis-a-vis the Crown. Take care, my friend.
Thanks very much for having me, Regis. Have a great day.